From CRI Simple Numbers, this is Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, a podcast for those championing market growth and anchoring the nation's economy, small businesses, and entrepreneurs.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of the Simple Numbers Profitability Playbook Podcast. I'm Mike Maxson. That's Brandon Gray.
Hey.
It's Monday, August 18th. And Brandon, you do anything fun this weekend?
Honeydew list, we got college football starting up here, and I guess week 0 is next week, and then the Crimson Tide will take the field the next, and so trying to knock out those last few things so that you can have Saturdays of football. How about yourself?
Yeah, my son started his football season, so we had their jamboree this past weekend. Found myself in Geraldine, Alabama for that one. So
hey, there's some tough guys in Geraldine. I'll tell you that.
It's definitely an experience. Well,
3 yards in a cloud of dust, they will hit you in the mouth.
So yeah, that's where we were at for that. And so, anyways, we got some good stuff to talk about today. This is gonna be another fun one. I mean, we've had some good ones lately. We made it through fixed assets. I think we did good on that one. Last week was good on spending money, but this week, we're going to talk about, current challenges facing entrepreneurs. And, we obviously work with a lot of businesses. I mean, Brandon, 350 businesses at any given time we're consulting with across our client base. And so we're seeing what people are doing. And by the way, it's all industries. So a lot of the things we're going to be talking about, might not exactly pertain to your industry or might not yet. So, because we do have an interesting economy right now. And so we're just going to talk about some different things that me and Brandon and the guys and gals have been facing on our consulting calls, and, hearing what's coming from the mouth of the entrepreneur. So, Brandon, what prompted this thought to come up?
Yeah, 2 things. So when we get on a call with a client, probably the one thing that comes up on every call is, well, what's going on out there? And a lot of times we'll give update on what we're seeing in the 100 company model. We talked last time about the difference between the above 10 million, below $10 million businesses, which is great. But at the same time, sometimes you want a little bit more of how the sausage is being made, you might say, of, not necessarily the financial result of what's taking place, but, what are people talking about on calls? And so that was one thing that kind of prompted it. The second was, as Mike mentioned, we work across many different industries, and we have intentionally remained industry agnostic. Reason being is we want to see what is working in one area, one industry, and then can that work in a different one? What are things that they are doing that's leading to success? And then how can you take that and apply that to what you're doing? And so as we kind of go through these, it's going to be the same way with some of the challenges and things that people are working on. Yeah, you may not be in the retail industry, but there's probably a couple of thoughts of things people in the retail industry are currently facing and the challenges that they're having that can relate to you and what they're doing about it. So that cross-pollination or learning from each other really is something that we try to provide. So those are the kind of the 2 things behind, as we were discussing, what do we want to talk about today that kind of led to it.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of things. And so I got some from your list here. Maybe one of the first ones we start off on is, maybe a real important thing in today's environment, which is focusing on high margin products. That's a very common thing, especially as you grow, you look to have more offerings. You can run into danger sometimes there with those in terms of what works, what doesn't. But Brandon, kick us off with focusing on high margin.
A client of ours that's in the distribution business. And, that can be commoditized pretty easily. And one of the things that we have a client that's working in, it's really trying to focus in on is they look at other, the different products that they offer, do the ranking of, that we recommend in terms of, okay, what gets us the highest margin, not just in a percentage, but also in a dollar amount, and kind of looking at those 2. and being able to spot needs in the marketplace that they can fill with these high margin products. And so as they've identified what those are that they can offer, then they're getting with the sales team and making sure that their customers are aware, first of all, that they offer that. What they have found is that a lot of folks didn't know that that was something that they could provide, and they were using an entirely different vendor for that. So that's kind of the first step. And then the second is kind of as they've had conversations with their clients of, well, what is it that you need that you're currently having an issue getting, or that you're wanting to shop vendors with? And that also has brought about a couple of high margin products that they can bring in. The third part, and this is kind of some of those secret sauces you might say that each business has, is once they identified that, they started shopping their suppliers and working to see, okay, who can deliver this at the lowest cost for us with the same value, the same quality, those kind of things. So they did a little bit of studying into the marketplace, and they landed on 2 or 3 products that have been great. As a matter of fact, you look at their margin for the past 3 months, and they'll bring up on the call, we'll see a margin bump. They'll go, oh, that was such and such product. They were able to move, and it could be considerable. And those dollars, keep in mind, when margin dollars increase in that fashion, it drops right to the bottom line. So the challenge becomes, whether you're in distribution, you could even be in services, retail, whatever it may be, making sure you're focused in on and that your team is behind driving the highest margin products.
Yeah, I like it. And one of the things that I think would people would continue this conversation along the margin lines, where I might have a high margin offering, but man, I sell a lot of the low margin stuff. Mm-hmm. And they get muddied into, well, I got to focus on the high margin. And then they let one slip. And really I believe there is a balance for both, especially if something brings in a lot of gross margin dollars, meaning it is at a volume level that is acceptable, right? So, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, hey, you make this widget over here, but you do sell 5 million of them and it's low margin. Mm-hmm. But man, this consulting service we have about the widget is, holy cow. That's like, I mean, there is no pricing market for it. We can price and people will pay us 10,000 in engagement. And so that, I think too, Brandon, is where some people get into where they're, but Mike, I mean, we do a lot of this, I don't want to cut it down. And it's like, no, I'm not saying to cut it down. What you do want, though, is the ability to marry. That's good business, to marry those two together and say, how do we not sacrifice one for the other? But it starts, Brandon, with one thing we do here and how we help clients is beginning to track that, measure it, and making sure that, hey, we can actually have 2 different high volume, low margin offering, as well as a high margin offering.
Definitely. Another one I'll throw out there. So this is from some of our retail clients. Really a challenge of trying to determine what does the market need and what will the market purchase right now, because that's changed. What was their bread and butter 2-3 years ago? Not to say it's went away, but it's not as easy to move. And so they're trying to get creative. What are products that maybe, are new, have a different feature to them. For some that do research and development as well, creating new products that the marketplace hasn't seen before. You've seen an increase in packaging in terms of, okay, well, what if I put these 2 products together? Does that drive behavior? So a lot of experimentation there and trying to capture, okay, what will the consumer actually spend on right now? And honing in on that. And so what can I provide that's not currently there? Or what can we do to the current products to enhance them?
Excellent. And my side of this is the demographic shift in economic times that businesses have either failed to realize or feeling that pressure. I'll give you an example. So maybe pre-COVID or pre-massive inflation, whatever you want to call it, right? So pre-high interest rates, high inflation, tariffs, you name it, right? So pre that. Let's say, hey, you marketed and everybody in I'm just middle America bought your stuff. And hey, I was charging $10,000, and really, I got the guy who would or gal who would buy it. They made 80,000 a year, and the person at $200,000 a year would buy it. Well, all of a sudden, you're like, man, this is really weird. I'm like losing sales here. Like, I feel like I have to reach 4 times as many people to get the sales. And then all of a sudden, they do maybe a case study, and they find that, holy cow, like really people like at an income level, maybe 6 figures or whatever higher, all of a sudden buying my stuff, and the lower aren't. Well, did you just experience your product now shifting to a different demographic, and you failing now to shift your marketing efforts towards it, or creating that product now that would actually serve that group? And I think during this time, I've had a lot of clients sort of that have done product or retail not realize that, and they've just kept marketing to a group of people anymore that can't afford to buy it, just due to the current economic environment.
Yeah.
And so they either had to go back and create an offering that met that need, or they'd have to shift their marketing and efforts to then focus on the range of consumer that could afford it to buy it. And so being mindful of that in the market is a huge challenge of itself.
Got another one from looking at some of our home services clients. And so when we say home services, that would include things like lawn care, landscaping, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, tree removal, those kind of things. Just think anything that I'm going to call someone over to the home to take care of. Some marketing experimentation taking place. As we've talked before, the cost of marketing has went up pretty substantially, and the return obviously has went down. So trying some different and new things there, whether that's sending things via direct mail. List services have become pretty big. Some folks experimenting with that. Some technology things that from a referral perspective that they can look to automate and what have you there. And so nonetheless, a lot of folks trying different angles to work on the marketing side. And then also one of the big things, and just about every client we work with in this industry is doing this, they're really working with their team on execution. So, the market just does not allow you to show up and not perform. There's not 10 other clients behind to make up for that one that you didn't perform on. Plus, too, in the world of, Google reviews and Reddit and everything else that's out there, you have a slip and people are real happy to hop on that keyboard and just crucify you. And so you got to make sure you're delivering a great experience there. And they're doing a lot of work with technicians around quality. They're doing work with them on making sure they spend a little bit of extra time in some cases to make sure that homeowner feels that they're valued and what have you there.
Yeah, excellent. That's a good one. Really good one. I got one here. I've had it happen with a few clients, and they're kicking around. So one of the things we've talked about before, I'm sure you could do a whole podcast episode on it, is, growth by acquisition. And a lot of people want to do that. It's a very, it's a good way to grow. The company we work for has done that. So not slamming it at all. But then there's also the side of it of building out that product or service, making an investment into it, and which one is the better value add there.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, Brandon, but it's one that is a current challenge, because they are looking at that and they're like, man, I might have to make a $500,000 investment to this. Should I just go find a smaller business and maybe try to buy them?
Mm-hmm.
What say you?
Well, it largely depends upon what are the opportunities for acquisition in that marketplace. And so you have some marketplaces to where we'll use let's talk about automotive repair. In general, that has an aging demographic. So you think of your local automobile repair shop, it's probably not being ran by someone in their early 30s that's looking to grow their business. Most likely it's somebody in their late 60s or their early 70s who's rather looking to go, you know what? I am ready to go to the house. I've been doing this long enough. I'm just going to tinker on my own, maybe do a few jobs along the way, but I'm ready to move on. Well, in those cases, you got somebody who's close to retirement. They're motivated, and so you can look at a potential acquisition, and it's not super costly versus other industries that back to home services, to where you're seeing a lot of times premiums being paid in the marketplace, businesses recurring revenue streams that they're getting premiums on, and what professional services, those kind of things. So in those cases, you may be better to greenfield it in versus acquisition. So you just got to kind of look at, the return on investment, obviously the payback period, those types of things. And, what does your marketplace look like in terms of motivated sellers? So I think that's kind of the key. Unless you just have a sack full of money, then
Right.
you can play a little bit of a different game. But most of the time when we're working with clients, they're looking at it, okay, I've either got to get it to cash flow and repay back my note through the existing operations, or if I'm looking to greenfield it, I'm going to bootstrap it.
And your willingness to potentially give away equity. That's something too, where it's like, hey, someone might not want to be purchased, but would like to merge with an equity option. And so you gotta look at your appetite there if you want to potentially do that.
It's an option, but hard to pull off.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you, I will say this. So I've been part of a few clients that have built out, again, I've been working with a law firm that built out a whole litigation practice. Listen, I don't know if you know how litigation works, but you got to wait for someone to get sued. So you go out and you hire the lawyers and you got everything going. And then it's like, well, we've marketed, we've shaken the hands and kissed the babies, and we're their lawyers. And then it's just, we wait. And you get to see that investment. And I think making sure you quantify that, and seeing of going, hey, how long might I have to float this investment of starting up a product or service? And then, when we do get the ability to deliver it, what is it going to take to break even? And hey, that leads into everything from pricing, offering, everything like that, of what you need to do to get it back, and hopefully quickly.
Here's another one.
Sometimes just buying a business, it's already there. You just got to deal with the headache of onboarding it.
Right. Here's another. This industry is challenged right now, the restaurant industry. So as what our observation has been is, if you're in very high end fine dining, you go on a Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday night, it's probably going to be fairly busy. You go to fast casual, fast food, maybe not as busy as it used to be, but there's still a decent line at Chick-fil-A. If you're in the middle, it's a real challenge. And so what I've been seeing with some of those folks, they're really focused on customer experience. How can we deliver great quality food? How can we deliver phenomenal service? How can we deliver with great accuracy? And then probably the most important in the current marketplace is, how fast can we do it? And so, you want repeat business. You've got to deliver a great experience that folks are not sitting around waiting on. So you're seeing some folks kind of streamline their menus to help with the prep time, and obviously the kitchen time. They're doubling down on accuracy and some checks and balances there, really studying their data around when are their peak times to make sure they're staffing appropriately. But at the same time, when it's not peak, that staffs are pretty skinny. So they're getting really nitty gritty, because that's a difficult area right now to make a dollar in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is always tough. And it's again, that one's always hit or miss, because man, there's sometimes in the area you go to, the restaurant, it's great, it's vibrant, there's people everywhere, and then you hear about some successful restaurant somewhere like struggling, and you're just, it just blows my mind. That's what I'm saying. It's just a weird economy with some things. The one I have right now too is so in case you all have been aware, no one has been working for less lately. Okay. So one thing about inflation that is always a problem is that it's real sticky. And as inflation happens in an economy, right? Too many goods or too much money chasing too few goods. everything goes up, and then therefore the cost of labor pushes up to obviously then have to afford everything for people, right? So the thing is, it's very difficult for it to come down. That's why people get mad and they're like, "Oh, the Fed's going to create a recession." Well, that's kind of what they try to do to deflate the economy a little bit. Well, no one's working for cheaper. People are still expensive, and so you got some companies that might be, riding that line of, hey, who, do I want to spend those labor dollars? And what they happen to want to do then is train employees, bring back hey, where's the college kid? Where's the kid coming out of school that has that? And well, they bring them on board and they don't know anything. And then they spend a lot of money trying to get them to speed. And so they want to build out a training program, which is going to require an investment not only in time, but investment of people on your staff. But a lot of businesses, especially small ones, lack this. And me and Brandon have both probably preached on here a million times. The companies that win are able to train their employees fast. Greg Crabtree's second book is, and I think he has in the second book, The Career Labor Efficiency Curve, where he talks about that training zone versus the chasing zone and how fast you get them into chase, where their value exceeds their comp and you're trying to give them raises, or when they're training, their value is below their comp and you want to get them up as fast as possible. And so the companies that win, I'll tell you right now, if me and Brandon listed the top clients, Simple Numbers S&P was created and we put our top clients in there, you would see that those ones train people fast and get them up to speed quickly.
Oh, without a doubt. And then the other one that you're seeing, and this is predominant across all industries, but especially in professional services, offshore labor, offshore and nearshore labor. I would say 24, that was a big theme as folks kind of were looking into it and trying to figure it out. And in 25, I can rarely think of a client we work with that does not have a handful of team members that are offshore. And so how do you train them? Those kind of things. Now, yeah, they're not, the whole move is that the labor is less expensive, but I got to get them up to speed very quickly in a remote fashion. And they can be phenomenal resources for your team. But yeah, and two, keep in mind as you're doing that training, how do people learn best? Most likely it's going to be through watching a video on something, doing it hands-on, and then, as y'all heard us say in the past, the key is the test. You've got to have testing in place because people magically pay more attention when you start testing them. Without a doubt.
I got a funny thing. I got a funny thing for you. So just everyone knows this. So when I was in the Army, I was explosive ordnance disposal, right? So all those IEDs you heard about for years, we went around the desert disarming them. It was crazy stuff. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm doing this, but to get through EOD school, right? To get through it, to finally pass, and you're badged and you're qualified. You go through roughly 8 to 12 months of training. You will take in that time almost 100 tests between written and practical. So everything you're tested on, you read, instruction, demonstration, practice, written, test. And let me tell you something. To this day, I can still look at any piece of ordnance and identify it. Like right now, if an artillery shell landed right out here in the parking lot and did it out, not only would I be able to take care of it, but I would tell you what country it's from, its size, and its hazards. so
Right there.
That's what it does to you.
The specialist, it's called Max, and he can come out and take care of it.
Yeah.
I got another one here. So manufacturing clients, seeing a lot of spend and capital being put into updating their equipment. So, with folks that have had equipment for several years, huge efficiency gains can be made. Obviously, technology has increased pretty substantially. Once again, kind of looking forward at, okay, we know that there's going to be a continued decline in the availability of labor. I've got to find ways to automate. So seeing a lot of that. We didn't even get into AI. I kind of did that on purpose because we could just have a whole podcast about AI, how folks are using it. But that being said, across every industry, across every client, people are experimenting with it. Some folks are using it at scale. And, I don't have to go into detail there. I think everyone's aware of what the future looks like and how it has to be leveraged.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. Well, awesome, man. I mean, I think that's pretty good. We don't want to fire all the bullets today, but I'm sure we could do another one of these in a few weeks with a whole bunch of new challenges.
I think the key is as you look at it, like we started off with, margin. I got to focus on I got to make sure the team is aware and that we know how to either find, if we don't currently have them, additional products or services with high margin, or make sure that we're pushing those things. We talked about experimentation as another big one. What does the market want? Whether you're in services or you're in retail or you're in distribution, whatever it may be, what's the market want right now? Because it has changed. And as Mike said, the core customer exercise, the demographics around them have likely changed as well. So you got to make sure you kind of know inside and out who you're marketing to, who you're trying to sell to. We talked about the restaurants and really doubling down on experience and efficiency. That applies to the service industry in general. Whether it's professional services or you're in the restaurant, you just don't have the opportunity for a slip up right now. Excuse me, as far as that part goes. And then as we mentioned earlier, whether it's acquisition or, greenfielding it per se, you've got to find a way to increase market share. You got to go steal it right now. So,
yeah, one more thing.
Possible.
Yeah, excellent way to wrap it up. And one more thing I might add, and that's what when it comes to Brandon and I and our team is, that's what we do here, is trying to help our clients highlight these things and then really quantify it for them. Obviously they're doing their own strategy, but making sure you quantify things. And again, that's our job here, is quantifying it and making sure that as you look at these different avenues of going, hey, I might have a margin problem. Hey, I might have a customer problem and I got to add a new product or service or go buy someone. Hey, what is going to be the impact of that across not only across my P&L, but over there in the cash side of things. And so, that's what we're here for. And, that's what we do. So we really enjoy talking about it. So, hey, for Brandon, I'm Mike, and we really appreciate you joining us, and we'll be back next week.
If you want to know more about driving sustainable profitability for your business or are interested in learning more about CRI Simple Numbers, please visit our website at simplenumberscri.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast. You can subscribe to Profitability Playbook on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review. This podcast is brought to you by CRI Simple Numbers LLC, a division of CRI Capital Group LLC, and a subsidiary of CRI Advisors LLC. CRI is the trusted brand under which Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC, the CPA firm, and CRI Advisors LLC, along with its subsidiaries, deliver professional services. Please note, Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC is a licensed independent CPA firm offering attest services, whereas CRI Advisors LLC and its subsidiaries specialize in providing tax and business consulting services. These entities operate within an alternative practice structure as defined by the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct and comply fully with applicable laws, regulations, and professional standards. Ready to simplify your business finances and drive growth? Explore valuable resources, books, and tools designed for entrepreneurs and small businesses at simplenumberscri.com.